All right, he probably doesn't need an introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. A man who's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 1,000-yard seasons in his 16-year career. It is Steve Smith joining us. You see him probably now more than anywhere else on NFL Network as he's an analyst for them. But he's got some podcast stuff going on as well. Mm-hmm. Steve, thanks for joining us. You're up here kind of checking in with the old Carolina boys up here in Buffalo.
Yeah, they call it Carolina of the North out here.
They do indeed.
They still do.
Yeah.
It's getting now that they've been there for 5 years. Now it's kind of like there's not that many guys left from when they were there.
Yeah.
But Dan Morgan actually went back, right?
Yeah, he did go
So
back.
he was here and then went back. So yeah, there's still a cross pollination. You're here. You told us you're going to speak to the rookies today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I talked to the rookies, Coach McDermott and some of the guys, Brandon Bean, Mark Carey asked me, will I speak to some of the rookies? So I said, absolutely.
What will be the message for those young guys? You know, what are the words of wisdom from a 16-year NFL vet?
The words of wisdom is, I'm 43 years old, just turned 43 a month ago, and taking care of, you need to be concerned about the future, because that's where you will live the rest of your life. And so understanding how you prepare for that is today.
Is that what you would have told yourself?
And that's exactly what it's based
That's
on.
what. Yeah, I mean,
exactly what it's based on.
I'm telling you what I would have needed to hear.
And I try to figure out, when I'm sitting in those meetings, in that chair, what did I need to hear? I even took it a step further and asked my wife as well. What does she think? What does she believe as the wife of Steve Smith Sr.? What did you think I needed to hear as a young man? And, several things she told me. She told me to tell him, be careful of the people you surround yourself around. Mm-hmm. Be honest and true to yourself. Be honest and true to your family. And, and really, honestly, is having those heart conversations which leads to many hard conversations.
Yeah. I think sometimes, and because I've heard Steve talk about this on the show a lot, when you're that age, when you're those guys in that room, you feel like you're bulletproof, number one. And then number two, you kind of have to act that way if you're going to hang around in this league for a while. You have to be supremely confident in yourself and act somewhat like we just saw Steve Smith as a player. You got to believe I'm the best out here. That's how you stay in the league.
Yeah, you do. You have to believe that. You have to drink your own Kool-Aid, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that has to do with, and maybe it's just me, I believe because of the insecurity that we have, we're in a job that being evaluated every single day. Yeah, everything we do, what we eat, I'm here and learning the nutrition. What we eat, people are watching. What we say, people are watching. How we answer, people are watching. There's someone right now watching. Maybe a fan, maybe a foe, that may be watching and say, "Oh, that wasn't the way you were as a player." Well, how do you know that? Because you only saw me in my job for 2.5 hours, right? Mm-hmm. In those 2.5 hours, technically, what you really saw was about 17 minutes of work. A lot of the other stuff didn't count, like I didn't play defense. So, so understanding, seeing that, I am who I am, and I've learned what I've learned. I've been through what I've been through. And helping, assisting other guys, paying it forward, like Steve Tasker has done with other guys. I grew up in L.A. Many of times seeing the Buffalo Bills take out the Los Angeles Raiders and the Oakland Raiders at that time, when Bo Jackson was injured, and seeing you guys do that on your run of 4 years of just greatness. That whether it's a special teams guy or wide receiver, the impact that you had on a player like me.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because nowadays these guys come into the league, and it's a little bit, because it's so exposed, and I've said this before, most of these guys, all the superstar guys, the quarterbacks, and a lot of the other guys, you have to have somebody, when you're not at the stadium, you got to have somebody who's got you at home. You need to have a support now, either a wife who's, strong girl, or a family member, because you got to have friends you can live with, even if it's a teammate. Well, when I was first started my rookie year, I had a buddy on the team. We got an apartment together because I didn't know I was made the team until they actually told me I made the team. Right? I mean, I thought I was going to be gone.
Yeah.
But you gotta to help you get through those long days of evaluation where everything you do is watched and evaluated. You got to have some place to go to retreat, and you do need somebody you can trust in your life. You got to have somebody who you can go home to.
Well, I take it a step further, though. You have to be trustworthy.
Yeah, right.
Right? You have to show that you can hold your end of the bargain up. And I think for myself, outside of football, there were times where I was not trustworthy, right? And that's just calling a spade, right? Your relationships should be a mirror, a reflection of what you're giving and giving into that person or giving to that person. So it's a clear reflection of that. So that's a true relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be a relation, it can't be somebody you hire as an assistant. It's got to be somebody who's in a relationship with you that you're invested in. Right.
Let's, speaking of relationships, your last year in Carolina was Ken Dorsey's first year as quarterbacks coach. I don't know that you had.
I know Ken.
Yeah. So, he's the OC here.
Yeah.
He's under the microscope of the fan base because this offense has been wildly successful. Now he has to run it, and he'll obviously put his own twist on it. But maybe just paint the picture, if you could, based on how well you know Ken. What should Bills fans expect from Ken Dorsey as an OC, a guy kind of running the show?
That is a interesting question, and I have to have an interesting answer because Ken has never been in this position before, and we don't know. I know the vast knowledge of offense that he has. He understands. He's played the position, so that's one. That's a check. He's coached some dynamic players. He didn't have anything to do with those dynamic players. They're dynamic before he got there, right? I'm always amazed, and Steve, you may laugh at this. I'm always amazed that when they list a coach, his accolades. Oh, he coached this guy to this Pro Bowl. That was a Pro Bowl player. You just happen to be around him, right? Let's be honest. Yeah. You can assist, but you can't step in front of God on some of the talents that some of these men have been drafted into. Like the wide receiver coach from here, he gets to experience and be around Diggs. Diggs is what he was prior to him getting here.
That's
now
fair.
his quarterback has made it a hell of a lot easier for him to perform and be well and sleep well and be prepared. So again, with Ken, I believe Ken will do some outstanding things because he also has the acumen of football. He understands how ball works. He was around the team with the Miami Hurricanes of playing. He understands feeding your workhorses makes the quarterback job easier, right? But what the offense will look like, how it will look under him, there will be some shades of gray. There will be some shades of black and white. That is very clear. But there will be some gray areas because it's his first time, right? I'm a father of 4, and I've had 4 different experiences with each of my children. But I know what it is to be a dad. I just don't know what it is to be a dad for my first one versus my fourth one and my second one versus my third one.
What do you remember about the way he would interact with, whether it's players at different he was running quarterbacks then, but he's talked here about wanting to bleed over into the other positions, strike up relationships, have interactions.
And I think that has to do with him watching and observing the segregation of positions on teams. Right? If you go in locker rooms at times, teams are starting to switch it up where it's no longer linemen on this side of the room or the locker room.
Yeah, they shuffle the deck.
Yeah, the shuffling deck because you got to get them to the whole thing with football now is evolving is integration. If you can integrate the team, you congratulate at the end because the togetherness and the relationships are built and they become stronger because of the nuances and the time they're off the field that they're constantly learning each other.
We've seen Sean McDermott. In fact, I've said this before on the show. One of his real gifts and he has self-admittedly had a lot to learn about being a head coach, first-time head coach, and they always have more on their plate than they've had as coordinator. But one of the things he kind of got right out of the gate when he was extremely good at was getting guys together and building a team. In fact, one of the hallmarks of the time he's been here in Carolina, sent from Carolina to Buffalo, is his ability to get new guys integrated into the old guys and haven't become a new team every offseason. They've had, they got a ton of guys on one-year contracts, always have a handful of contributors. They're just there for the year, it seems like. Then if they perform well, they sign them later. But that 1 year looks like a window. He's been really good at doing that. Did you see any of that when you knew him earlier as the coordinator? And have you seen other coaches have that kind of success?
I mean, every coach has their own spin on being a head coach and managing the personalities and managing the locker room, managing themselves, the coaches. Coach McDermott, me and him have always had a unique relationship, being an offensive player and him being defensive coordinator. We've always talked. When he first got to Carolina, he came down as I was doing some rehab in the training room, and he came down, and he just would sit. He said, hey, you're forced to sit with me because you have to get treatment, so you can't go anywhere.
Captive audience.
So let me ask you some questions. And so the dialogue really benefited to where he started asking me questions. I would ask him, and he would be able to give me advice on defense. And then he would come up to me, hey, what did you think about this? I like this, but I saw this, and here's why. He's like, well, you're different. I understand, and you are different as well, right? And here's the last caveat. A lot of the defensive-minded head coaches that are successful in this league right now are coming from William & Mary.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin,
McDermott, and I always told McDermott, you have to be successful because you're not really a football team.
William and Mary. Wow. Oh, he loved that, didn't he? That's great.
Marv Levy came from.
Yeah, but my point is one of those. I'm bringing it up, and I told Coach McDermott that, and he kind of he looked at me funny after I made that statement, and he figured out why I made the statement. I made the statement. It wasn't to dig at William and Mary. It was the fact that he realized I went back and did research on him. Yeah. Right, to be able to get that dig, right? But it's the understanding of you got to do your homework on everybody. You can't just do the homework on the people outside of the building. You got to do your homework about the guys that you're going to play with every single week.
Let's talk a little bit about Josh. And Ken Dorsey, who addressed the media this week, said he feels that he and Josh see the game the same way, which should help.
That's always great.
Yeah. And people are asking, well, are you going to take input from Josh? He goes, I'd be stupid not to take input from Josh over the course of a game when you're making adjustments or what he's seeing, this, that, and the other. But he didn't deny the fact that there will be instances where he will say, well, that's a great suggestion, Josh, but we're going to do it this way.
Correct.
And this is why. How important is the why to a player? Like, put yourself back in your playing shoes. You got a coach coming to you and saying, look, I hear you, but we got to do it this way. When he can give you a why, how much of a difference does that make? Because he's not roundly rejecting your suggestion. He's saying, I get it, but this is why we have to do it this way. Does that help, or are you still pissed off they're not doing it your way?
What helps is the success of the play.
Okay.
If you're going to minimize my suggestion, your option better be better than my option.
It better work.
It better work. And I
And
think
I get it. Yeah.
But I mean that because what you don't want to do is start to turn on the selective hearing of your players because they feel like that you're unapproachable. They feel like that you don't listen. And I tell you what I dislike more than anything. I dislike the smartest guy in the room. If you're the smartest guy in the room, that means you know all the answers. And if you know all the answers, that means we're in trouble. Because there's no way that you can ever know every single thing by watching.
It's easy to trust Josh, though, right? I mean, he comes to the sideline with something. It's easy to trust a guy like that.
I'm talking about the coach. I'm talking
I know.
But because if you're telling me that you know all the answers to the test, so you're telling me that you know exactly at every single moment what the defense is going to run and they're never going to fool us?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? And you're telling me that I'm supposed to have complete confidence in that? I don't like smartest people in the room.
Maybe I asked it poorly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a situation of absolutes.
I'm not saying you didn't ask it poor.
Okay.
Ask it. I'm just answering what does happen in this league. And we're not naming names, but there's some coaches out there
that know better every time.
That have answers to the test, and that erodes at the player and the coach's relationship because the player starts to feel like you know everything, which means you're going to tell me to check my brain at the door, which means that this is not really a relationship.
So why should I bother giving input?
And then eventually, why should I bother being here? Because you have all the answers.
Yeah.
Because when someone has all the answers, that also tells a player who they are when the mic is off or in the boardroom. That coach is going to blame the player to the ownership. That player is going that coach is going to say, "Well, I told him to run a slant." No, coach.
It's never your fault. It's never the guy's fault.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's what can happen, and it does happen, right? It happens to players, right? When players have all the answers. So if you can collaboratively talk and be cohesive, and yes, tell me, hey, we're not going to do it this time, but let's do it this other time, and you make that player feel like you're listening, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be an awesome relationship.
Yeah. Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. We've had you on the show a while back. It's been because I think it was like even before COVID.
Yeah, it was about
so
2
it's
years
been a
before
while.
COVID.
Yeah, so it's good to see you back.
Yeah.
It's good. It's always good to see you.
Thanks for the time.
Not
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate it. I know you got a busy schedule, so we
little bit.
appreciate you carving out some time for us
Appreciate
here today. Safe travels back home, all right?
Yeah, good luck. It's exciting watching you guys.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
That's NFL Network analyst Steve Smith.